Well, Carrie, we're finally here. We get ahead into week one of football season. Obviously, it's been a long time since we last were able to see a game, well over a year since we left DeKalb at Husky Stadium when Lena Winslow was coming away with their fourth state championship in the past decade. But we're here. It's 2021 spring season. Obviously, we have some things that are not going to line up the way that we thought that they would due to either the crossover of sports, COVID issues that some of our member schools already are taking place, and then you have a couple of openings there, but most of our teams are slated for at least 5 games, and we have a couple that will be playing a 6-game schedule as well.
I don't know about you. I'm really looking forward to the fact that, I mean, while I know we all really want a state championship, it's kind of neat. I know we're amped up, to not only just see what everybody's got, but, this week we're going to hit it right off the top, Princeton, Lena Winslow. I mean, it's going to be cool to see stuff like this that you wouldn't normally want to see during a potential state championship run.
Right, exactly, and I mean, even if both these teams were to go into a state championship type run, this is a great game regardless of situations. Obviously, Lena Winslow is ranked number 1 in the coaches poll. They received 13 of the 14 votes in that poll. Princeton comes into the season ranked number 2 in the Class 3A poll, and me personally, I had Princeton ranked number 1 in my poll because of the amount of players that they have coming back. And I mean, we'll dig into some other numbers as we get into breaking down the inserts of that game. But one of the games that was on slate for this week one was Dakota at Forston, which has been a staple for an early season matchup in the NUIC over the past several years. Unfortunately, that game was canceled due to COVID concerns between both schools. In light of that, Forston will not have a week 1 game. Dakota will also not have a week 1 game, but they have opted to go into a scrimmage with Rockford Christian in place of the game to get some additional practice work in to get prepared for the season as well.
I don't know about you, Kyle. I'm ready to jump in. How about you?
Yeah, we got some great key matchups here. Obviously, we have our soon-to-be game of the week in Aquin at Du-Pec, which is going to feature some good talent there. We have another big one that's slated in Orangeville at East Dubuque. While past records don't necessarily dictate the outcome of the games, those games have been neck and neck over the past 4 seasons.
Absolutely, and I know before we even started filming, we just discussed, Coach Joe Edler spending all of his time under Coach Jay Doyle. So it'll be really cool to see the matching, the coaching matchups with Coach Snyder now at the helm and see where that will go.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you have your Stockton and Milledgeville matchup. While it hasn't always been considered a true rivalry, they've had a lot of years over the past 20 years where they've had some neck-and-neck games, or they've had a lot of games on the line, so to speak, in that matchup. And while it's not traditional in this season, it's still a big matchup, especially as we see Milledgeville leave for 8-man football at the end of the spring season. So let's get it kicked off. Week 1 is here, and we'll bring you those games right now.
All right. Well, are you ready to get this all kicked off?
Ready to go, Karen.
Awesome. Well, our first game takes us to Galena at EPC, except it's not at EPC. It'll be played at Freeport High School, 7 p.m. this Saturday.
And that's awesome because at least they get a place to play. Obviously, it's going to open up the avenue for us to catch a lot of games, this being one of them, because of the different slates and structures that a lot of these teams are going with in order to get these games played and without tearing up their fields at the same time.
It's also really nice. It's a nice central location because sometimes, you might not be able to make it all the way to Galena after work, but you can certainly probably make it to Freeport, considering it's kind of the central locale of the NUIC conference.
Right, that's correct.
So that's really cool, especially for people like me that have to come from Rockford. So, jumping into this, how far do you think EPC will drop with their decline in numbers? I know that we talked about that being one of their main concerns this last week?
You know, it's a good question there. Obviously, they bring back talented runners in Logan Krell and Bishop Grosinger. Krell being their leading rusher from a season ago, he's also going to be the third leading rusher returning in the NUIC overall, both sides of the conference. Their biggest areas of issue really is going to be depth, and of course, getting the offensive and defensive lines built back up to where you need them to be. I mean, that's where some of their core figures left last season. And I think with Caden Kohlauer, Paul Sturtevant, Ben Bremer, Christian Fisher, and maybe somebody else that can step in, we'll be able to provide that type of strength for EPC to be successful up front in 2021.
The Pirates obviously know what it's like to be dormant. What can they do to reestablish dominance moving forward?
Well, I think Coach Freed's got a good bunch of people coming in here this year as well. You have the return of Peyton Bauer. You have Ethan Heffel back at quarterback, which we were able to see a lot of excitement and great plays out of him. Obviously, there's areas where he still needs to develop, but it's going to come. You add in the playmaking ability of Julio Mastazuma as well returning, and you know the Pirates have some explosive talent there. Again, like a lot of these teams, it's going to be the offensive and defensive lines that are really going to have to be built up. I mean, you take a look at what Galena has returning there, and you have Gabe Garcia and Brian Luna, and in that regard, you know, where else are you going to get that depth? Now, obviously, Galena's got a very talented group of juniors right now, and they have some good seniors here that are going to go out on a high note. I mean, you add in playmakers like Sam Hesselbacher, and hopefully a level of play to come up in Connor Bear, and I think that the Pirates are going to be a lot better than what we saw last year, and it's about time that they start to get that moving forward.
So playing at Freeport, it's going to be, especially at 7 o'clock, I feel like it's really going to have a playoff atmosphere.
Yeah, I think it's going to have a good playoff atmosphere. Obviously, everybody's been, again, waiting to play because of COVID, so you're going to have that built-up level of excitement around the game as well. And just to be able to get kicked off under the lights at Pretzel Stadium is going to be a lot of fun on the turf, so you don't have to worry about potholes or, well, not potholes, but, you know, divots and whatnot, tore-up fields. You're going to have a nice slate of grass to play on. Being on the turf.
Who you got?
I personally like EPC in this matchup.
Make it 2. All right, Kyle, our second matchup takes us down to Milledgeville, where Milledgeville will host the Stockton Blackhawks at 7 o'clock on Friday night.
Yeah, it's great to see. Obviously, the game's going to be played at Milledgeville, so old Floyd Daub Field's getting a makeover right now. Line's getting painted, so it's kind of exciting to see. As Milledgeville is always a fun place to go watch a football game. Really a unique environment. At the same time, you know, we always joke about it, but I personally like it. I think you like it too, but the whole Victory Bell deal with the missiles at the end of their victories going up there and going through every player ringing the bell once to declare victory is really a cool thing to see.
I'm pretty sure 100 years ago at Fresh Soft Track Conference, I'm pretty sure some of us rang the bell. But that's obviously a story for another day. Anyway, back to the game. So we've got some interesting, just interesting tidbits to go into this game with. So we're looking at Stockton. They have a new coach, Coach Lightson, but he's no stranger, obviously, to Stockton, being a Stockton native, and he was also the assistant coach under Thornton. So, Stockton obviously is returning a lot of players. How do you think this is going to be affected with Lightson stepping in as coach?
Well, I think that it's going to be business as usual for the Blackhawks. I mean, if you take a look at what Coach Lightson has done as the head coach over the past 5 seasons with West Carroll, is he's taken a program that has had very little success whatsoever got them to the playoffs 3 times, and in the 2 years that they weren't, they were still very competitive teams despite the records. And obviously, his teams have given state championship or semifinalist teams fits over his 5 seasons that he coached there as well. I mean, we've heard it from Fieldcrest, who they went 1-1 against. We've heard it from Lena Winslow. We've heard it from Forreston. You just see it all the time. And then you got close games that they had with, or that close game that they had with GCMS here a few years ago. So the dynamic that he brings is going to be different as far as the offensive schemes that he may run. Obviously, he has success or knowledge of the wing T, wishbone type offense. Likewise, he ran the spread offense when he was at West Carroll. He's got a big returning rusher in Jason Herman, who has almost 2,000 career yards rushing coming back this season. You put in other running backs with Andrew Haas and Hunter Hilly that also have experience at the varsity level running the ball. He's got the formulation of being able to run the wing T type offense. It's going to come down to, does he have the line? Obviously, he's got Brady Brocious, he's got Casey Rowe, he's got Case Harmston, guys that may not necessarily have experience, but they can definitely build upon, right? The biggest question there is, though, you need a quarterback. And if you're going to run a spread offense, who's that quarterback going to be? And we don't know yet, but we'll find out soon enough.
So on the opposite side of the coin, obviously, Stockton has some returners. Milledgeville, they're kind of a young team. They're coming off a 1-8 season, and this is their last season in 11-man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Milledgeville's making the right move, going to 8-man football, joining the other 4 schools that are departing to create a 7-man NUIC team, or to create a 7-team effect of the NUIC in 8-man football. But you take a look at some of their key returners in Ryan Kendall, Damon Miller, Nick Smith, Logan Miners, Daniel Lowndes, and Blake Sherman. And they have, like you said, there's youth there. They have experience at the varsity level. What can they do to bring together that type of dynamic to create a very competitive team? We don't know yet. Obviously, they went 1-8, coming off an 11 or 10-1 season. So it's gonna be, what can Coach Roble do with his team to make things happen? Obviously, we've seen him over the last couple seasons be able to run both a running type attack and a wing type offense, but they've also have spread it out a bit. And if you have an inexperienced line, obviously the wing offense is a great offense to run, because it's not necessarily how strong you are, it's about getting to your gaps, filling that gap, getting that block on somebody real quick, just to create a slimmer of pathway for you. But at the same time, you go with the spread type offense, you can do some more zone type blocking, get some quick reads, quick passes out. Slant routes can be a pain to cover at times, and if you're effective at doing it, you can have a lot of success with it.
So, who are you taking Friday night at Milledgeville?
I'm going to stick to my guns here. I think Stockton is the choice pick here with a lot of returners. Obviously, the coaches have Stockton ranked number 8 in state. You take a look at this game just a year ago, Stockton won at 26-8 in week 1 as well. And I think Stockton's got a lot to prove. And, of course, with Coach Leitzer returning, as you noted earlier, he wants to make that point.
I also have the Blackhawks, so we'll see what happens Friday night. All right, Kyle, we only have one divisional contest this week, and it's going to be the Orangeville Broncos against the East Dubuque. Let's try that again, the East Dubuque Warriors. However, the game will be at Dubuque Senior High School Friday night at 7 o'clock.
There you go. Yeah. And obviously, you take a look at this game last year, Orangeville won in week 5, 29-28. And over the past 4 seasons, these two teams have split, going 2-2 each, with 3 of the games being really very close games.
It has. I know we attended last season, and that Did that go into overtime?
No.
No?
But it was very tight.
I remember that. Anyway.
We were talking about overtime somewhere in the third quarter, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. It was kind of a long time ago. Feels like an eternity ago. Anyway, so this matchup, what makes it so cool, I know we touched on this in, the beginning. It's going to be Coach Joe Edler, his first game as the East Dubuque head coach. Also, obviously, if you know and have been watching us, or if you're just familiar with the NUIC conference, you know Joe Edler. He is a staple. Whether he is an assistant coach under Jay Doyle or he's Lena Winslow's starting quarterback.
Absolutely. Obviously, like you said, Coach Edler was the quarterback for Lena Winslow's first state championship. So he's and then after school, he comes back and helps out at Orangeville as an assistant under Coach Doyle there. And now he's leading the East Dubuque Warriors in his first head coaching gig, which is excellent to see. You like to see area alum come back and lead programs within our conference.
And it's especially neat because I know a lot of times they will also talk about just their passion for the conference, not just necessarily their team, but the conference as a whole. So going into this, I know you talked about how they've been tied. They're in the series. They're 2-2. So let's start with Orangeville.
Sure.
How did they start fast this year?
Well, it's one of the things that we've seen over the last couple of years. We've been high on Orangeville with the amount of talent that they had. You had one of the best running backs in conference history in Garrett Rodeball. You had another big-time playmaker in Carter Kleckler over the years. So watching them grow and develop into what they became last season as in their senior years was great. But it was something that we thought that they would be able to do at sooner times. So while we had a little bit of expectations of Orangeville being a 6-3 or 7-2 team, it was 5-4, 5-4, and then finally last year they did get to 6-3. But lo and behold, they're here. This year they return a lot of teams or players off of that playoff team just a season ago, and you got guys like Chase Jordan, who is coming back his senior year, and he is the second leading rusher in the conference that is returning. You're going to see an all-conference lineman and Cade Janicki get moved to fullback, replacing Rodeball's position. Obviously, they return Jake Doyle at quarterback. And then you're looking at other fill-ins with Carson Rote and Gunnar Lobdell as some guys that may be able to transition in and out of those running back / wide receiver type positions. When you take a look at their offensive lines, you got Chase Bowen and Jared Stubbyback, Ethan Fulgate, Ryan Guy, and likewise those guys are going to be turning around playing on the defensive side at either defensive line or linebacker. So I think Orangeville has a lot of material there to be a very dynamic team. Obviously, they're starting off ranked 14th in state in the coaches poll, which is great recognition for what the Broncos are. But at the same time, they don't have a lot of depth, and they're going to have to be able to rely on staying injury-free to have that success. And then you take a look at one of the players that we haven't mentioned yet in Zach Baker, who's returning at tight end and defensive line, also provides a good leg in the special teams area as a kicker and punter. So, I mean, they have the ingredients there. But like we stated, they've got to stay injury-free. As long as they do that, they can have a very, very good season. They're going to be very competitive in the NUIC. It's unfortunate that we won't be able to see a playoff this year because obviously with Orangeville going to 8-man football this fall, this could have been a prime opportunity for the Broncos to make their 4th consecutive trip to the playoffs, which would have been for the first time in school history. So, unfortunately, we're not going to see that, but looking forward into 8-man football, if they do make the playoffs there, obviously they can continue to add on that playoff-type atmosphere that they've come to experience the last few years.
So, you listed off a whole boatload of names of all-conference players that Orangeville returned, where East Dubuque does not bring any back. We've talked about them being another youthful team. What is it going to take for them to get back on track?
Well, one of the cool things about East Dubuque, and we've been able to see them play a couple times in the last few years as well, and they're always that one play or two plays away, or even one score, two scores away from being that 1-8, 2-7, 3-6 team to where they could be that 5-4, potentially 6-3 team. I mean, we've seen them give Orangeville fits. We've seen them give Dakota fits. They've been in some ball games that they lost to playoff teams, and had they been able to get that one or two breaks in that game to go their way, they're the team in the playoffs,
Right.
putting the other team out. So obviously, as you stated in the introduction, we got Joe Edler taking over as head coach. It's going to be interesting to see what he brings to the table, as what kind of offense is he going to run. Obviously, being under Coach Doyle and obviously playing under Coach Aaron, we know he's got a lot of experience with the wing T type offense. So is he going to establish himself as a running coach or a throwing coach? And when you take a look at what he has coming back, you add a huge playmaker in Declan Schemmel returning. You have Will Kiefer. You have Sam Huntington, Sam Bowman, Cade Kohler, and Dawson Fyan, and even Ben Montag at the tight end position. You have a good plethora of players there that you could do different dynamics. You could run that spread offense and split some of these guys out into that wide receiver type location. You could run somewhat of a pistol type offense like we see Aquin try to do a lot, where they want to spread you out, but they want to do it so they can run the ball more effectively and efficiently. While getting some quick strike passes in. So East Dubuque has the playmakers that they can really be a big surprise here. Obviously, we had them going 0-6, and a lot of that's because of the schedule that they face. They face arguably the toughest schedule in the entire conference this year. When you take a look at it, they're playing Orangeville. They're playing Dakota. While Dakota, we don't expect to be very high this year, Dakota obviously has been a team that East Dubuque has struggled with. They play Lena Winslow, the defending state champs. They play Aquin, who's starting off the season ranked number 3 in state. They play Stockton, who we just mentioned is number 8 in state. And then they finish with Galena, a team that we expect to be on the rise as well. So where we need East Dubuque to look at is building that offensive line too. And with Ben Tressel and Connor Miller and Ethan Sheehan, you got some guys there that you can build that type of offense around. You have a lot of different dynamics available to you. And really, you take a look at East Dubuque's junior class in whole. They are very, very athletic, very exciting to watch. It'll be interesting to see how their growth from being sophomores and juniors playing varsity last year translates into juniors and seniors this year.
You know, I've never known East Dubuque not to have athletes.
Yeah.
So, not a surprise there.
Exactly. I still do like Orangeville in this game, but I would not be surprised if this is another tight ball game here, and it could go East Dubuque's way.
100% agree, but I am taking the Broncos in this matchup. All right, so we kind of highlighted this game earlier. This is our non-conference matchup. Our prime time matchup, as you call it. We're going to see the Lena Winslow Panthers head down to Princeton to face the Tigers in the jungle.
The Rumble in the Jungle. I kind of coined that. I liked it. It sounded good, especially when Coach Pearson tweeted out that they were going to have the game with Lena Winslow at the Jungle at 7 p.m. It was just, wow, the Rumble in the Jungle, kind of going off the old Ali Frazier fight back in the 70s.
I'm pretty sure you didn't just make that up.
No, I didn't make it up. It just kind of fit the scenario. But we have a big game here.
We do. So obviously Lena Winslow's coming off their 2019 state championship run, and Princeton, they lost to Byron in the semifinals last year.
Yeah, obviously, like you said, Princeton getting to the state semifinals in Class 3A, losing to eventual state runner-up Byron 7-3 in that game, and that was a game too that Byron was a team that was heavily favored to win state because it was their second year in a row getting there. A second year in a row losing it as well in a very close contest. But obviously Princeton was able to play that game and keep Byron really much in check while also having a very good defensive struggle type game, which really showed how strong that the Tigers have become. And obviously, you take a look, like we said, with Lena Winslow dominating their way to a state championship game. To see this game come to the forefront in week one was a stroke of luck because obviously Princeton had a week one game scheduled. Whatever happened there, they had an opening become available. Immediately, I know as soon as I saw Coach Pearson put that they're looking for week one, I started tweeting that.
I was going to say, I saw your tweet.
And Coach Aaron saying, hey, let's get this set up. Coach Aaron did reach out to me saying that he was trying to get this game scheduled, but they ran into some issues, so it didn't seem like it was going to be a go, and then here on Friday we find out it is a go a week ahead of the game, so it's excellent. I'm glad that we get to see this opportunity take place. It's obviously a game-type situation that I've been toting about for the last several years when it comes to the power of the NUIC versus the power of some of these other conferences that we see. And these two, while you stated, aren't necessarily unfamiliar with each other, with Coach Snyder obviously going against Lena Winslow here in recent years, being a Lena Winslow alum himself. But Lena Winslow and Princeton did meet back in week 5 of 2010 when Lena Winslow beat them 49-14 on their way to their first state championship game as well. So it's interesting to see how this is going to matriculate. It's very cool that it's at Princeton because that's a cool environment as well.
Well, and you kind of touched on Coach Snyder, who is now an assistant coach back at Princeton. I don't know if we highlighted that or not, but It's kind of cool to see. Obviously, I talked about that earlier. So, getting to the game plan. How is Lena Winslow going to combat the Princeton defense? They run a 3-3 stack. No one around here runs that.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup, to say the least. Obviously, you know that Coach Aaron doesn't like to go away from his bread and butter, which is going to be the wing T offense. He's going to come at you with the same look. I mean, he's got Mari Roby back at running back. He's got Jack Sederson back in the fullback role. And while both these guys weren't the feature last year when you had Sean Ormiston and Isaiah Bruce, they got a lot of carries, they got a lot of yards, and quite honestly, they were big contributors, key contributors to that state championship team. You throw in Benson at quarterback, and we don't even know who the actual quarterback's going to be. And that's because Lena Winslow has Evan England transferring into their school from Wheaton Warrenville South. He's a senior, plays quarterback, has already committed to Loras College to be a Duhawk starting this fall. And with Luke being a state championship quarterback, he put up some good numbers as a sophomore last year. I mean, his completion percentage and touchdown to interception ratio was phenomenal, especially for a sophomore. But, obviously the Panthers have some questions to be answered there. Who's it going to be? What are they going to do? Are they going to throw one in the backfield and kind of do some trickery, per se? I mean, granted, we don't see a whole lot of trickery out of the Lena Winslow Panthers, but we have seen some wrinkles to what they do at different times in different situations and scenarios come to the forefront as well. So it's not out of the ordinary. Obviously, you bring back another big playmaker, well, not playmaker, but big player in Jennings Dunker. Obviously, D1 committed, going to Iowa, well talked about over the last couple seasons. He returns on the line. You have Maddox Sargent returning on the offensive line. He was a starter as a sophomore on that state championship team. You have Jensen Block and Cole Gerber also returning on the defense with Max Ament and Tristan Rude. all these guys were starters, and then Connor Edge was a fill-in player on the offensive and defensive lines at different times as well. So, the Panthers have, once again, the ability to reload, as we've seen them do pretty much every year in Rick Aaron's tenure at Lena Winslow. And they feature a plethora of all-conference players there with Gerber, Max Ament, Luke Benson, Jensen Block, Mari Roby, and Jennings Dunker. And Dunker was an honorable mention All-State member last year. So while the 3-3 stack look, to answer your question, is going to be different, I think he's going to find a way, Coach Aaron and Coach Benson are going to find a way to stay within their plan and be able to attack the lanes that they have available to them.
And on the flip side, Princeton, they run a pro-style offense. So how are the Panthers going to defend that?
Well, I think, you're going to see Lena Winslow probably come out in their traditional 4-4 type front set and probably transition to more of a 4-3 or possibly into a nickel type defense. Obviously, they've had a lot of experience in the past couple of years going up against spread style or pro-style type offenses with Aurora Christian, Aquin, West Carroll. So it's not something that they're not used to seeing, but what they're not used to seeing is a team that's going to feature the Tigers' all-time leading rusher and Rondé Worrells, who is a D1 commit going to NIU this fall. They also return quarterback in Tyler Gibson, who threw for over 2,000 yards last year on that semifinal team. And then you take a look at some of their other guys that they're going to have there. You have fullback Drew Harp. You have another running back in Logan Glancy. You have a wide receiver in Cale Davis. And then you add in offensive linemen in Alex May, Grant Foes, and Cody Mongan. And, I mean, that's a lot of dudes that can make a lot of things happen for Princeton offensively. So I think it's going to be a touch and feel type situation where you come out in your base set and you adjust from there, and I think that's what we're going to see Lena Winslow do.
Who you got?
Oh, I hate to say it. I know Coach A loves it when I go against him because it gives him that little extra, but I think I got to go with the Tigers in this one.
I have full, I don't know, I guess you would call them the underdog, but I have to take those Lena Winslow Panthers.
It's one of those games I wish we could have seen play out last year because I definitely would have flipped my pick, but I think this year it's going to be a close game. I think because it's in Princeton, that's where my edge is at. But I think it's going to be a fun game, and if you can get there or watch it on NFHS, do it.
Well, our game of the week is going to feature Aquin at Du-Pec, except it's not going to be in Durant. It's not going to be at Pecatonica. It's going to be at Auburn High School in Rockford, 11 a.m. on Saturday.
Yeah, obviously it's a good thing for Dubuque. They didn't want to tear up either of their fields. They're able to contract all of their home games with Auburn High School to play on Saturday at 11 a.m. in every one of their home contests. So that's really good to see.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they've been able to get out and get practicing on their Durand game field because they've been able to get some stuff done under the lights to get prepared while also having their team continue with basketball practices and whatnot in that first period of training. Obviously, with basketball season coming to an end this past weekend, now the focus is all on football.
So, both Aquin and Du-Pec came off pretty good seasons last year. Aquin ultimately met their demise in Lena Winslow, and Du-Pec met their demise in Byron. So, what's interesting is this is the team Aquin has, everyone has talked about under Will Gus and everything else. However, this is also the team that Du-Pec's talked about, that they've been waiting the last few years for. So, how do each of these teams become title contenders?
Well, that's a tough question. I think when you look at both these teams, obviously Aquin would arguably already be in that role of a title contender. They're starting off ranked number 3 in Class 1A. Obviously, like everybody else, they got their butts handed to them against Lena Winslow in a route-type fashion, and ultimately lost in the quarterfinals. But if you take a look at where Aquin was last season, they beat Forston in a close game. Well, who else beat Forston in a close game? Anawan Wethersfield, who was in the state semifinals. Anawan Wethersfield also lost to Lena Winslow in a closer game than what Aquin lost to. But, Aquin pretty much was right there knocking on the door. And I think if you put Aquin against any team in the state last year outside of Lena Winslow, you could put your money on the Bulldogs to be at state, if not be the state champion in that realm, or at least give the potential state champion the game to earn it. So that's where Aquin's at. Obviously, you bring up players like Will Gus, you add in Ty Steekel and Andrew Bowman and Brennan Carlson, and you start to look at the dynamic of what could be the Bulldog offense, and it is exciting. I mean, watching these guys play is a lot of fun. I mean, we've said how exciting it has been to watch the Bulldogs play the last couple of years, and it really came to the forefront last season. You throw in Hayden Neuendorf, Cade Geiken, Aiden Curry, Aiden Gassman, and Drew Egge into the mix, too. I mean, you got a lot of guys that are returning for the Bulldogs that have a lot of experience, and it's sad to see this type of talented team not be able to get a chance to play for a state championship. But, they're going to have a pretty favorable schedule. But this game coming out of the gates with Du-Pec is definitely going to be that game to show us exactly who the Bulldogs are. And if they do win this game, it would be a good lining to what could have been. Aquin's going to be chomping at the bit, ready to go. Obviously, we know that Coach Kundert and staff and company are ready to go. And then, likewise, you can say the same for Du-Pec.
So to go back to my question, obviously that's how Aquin can look to become a title contender. Now, what can we see, or what can Du-Pec do to be a conference contender? So
this is one of those seasons where, is Du-Pec ready to be that conference contender? If they can start to be the player that they want to be a conference contender, then we can really start to develop that talk into a potential state contender. I think when you take a look at what the Rivermen have, they have a lot of great playmakers. And as you stated in the introduction, you have a lot of guys here that can really put up a lot of numbers and a lot of points in a hurry. The biggest problem with the Rivermen is their offensive and defensive lines. While they have all the skills guys available, unlike Aquin, they don't have the experience on the offensive and defensive lines. Obviously, they do have some returning starters in Bailey Leaf and Nick Upman and Carson Lehman. But you've got to get some other guys in there that have never played at the varsity level. And you're going to look at, guys like Jake Anderson, who's getting a lot of publicity on Twitter recently, for good reason. I mean, he's put himself out there going to all these different camps and showcases, but he has not played a varsity down yet. So what can he do to create a buzz around him and keep that positive vibe going for himself? He's obviously going to be a junior, so he's got a lot to build on. Obviously, quarterback Hunter Hoffman, big season last year. He's got big goals in front of him, and one of those goals is to be the NUIC all-time passing leader. He's got a long way to go to get there, and obviously having a shortened season doesn't put that in the scope of reality per se at this moment, but it's definitely not unattainable at the same time. You add in Gabe Howard and Trey Stifter at wide receiver. And then you can throw in some other guys. Trenton Taylor's going to be returning. What can he do? You got Trent Hetland coming back. He didn't get a whole lot of playing time last year, but he's going to step into a bigger role this year. Bo Seaton didn't get a lot of playing time last year. What can he do to bring another level for them? Landon McKnight, the same. So, you got a bunch of ability for the Rivermen to take that next step. Obviously, they're not starting off ranked in Class 3A, but they've at least got some attention because they were noted as teams, or in the coaches' poll as teams to watch. But if you really want to break it down further, you look at the power ratings, and I take a lot off the power ratings. Granted, it's just that they're power ratings; they don't really mean a whole lot. But at the same time, more times than not, they're around 85 to 86% accurate. And when you take a look at that, Du-Pec is rated top 10 in the amount of talent, along with their schedule ability when they come back. And they have a tough schedule here. You're playing Aquin, you're playing Stockton, you're playing Dakota. While Dakota, again, is not where Dakota of the past has been, Dakota beat Du-Pec last year. You have Orangeville, EPC, and Lena Winslow. That is a gauntlet of a schedule for the Rivermen. So this is going to be a great year to see what the Rivermen can do. And if they can get through this relatively unscathed, then we can start talking about them being a 3A title contender.
Who you got?
I got the Bulldogs in this one. I've been clicking with Aquin all season long. I think that continues here.
I also have the Bulldogs, but I am really excited to see what Du-Pec brings to the table.
I agree with that. It'll be fun.
Well, it's been 16 months, 475 days since we last saw Illinois high school football. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty jacked for Friday night.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. Obviously, we have a good slate of games here to get us kicked off on the spring schedule. It'll be the only week that we don't have a full slate, but we have a very good slate of games to get started here. So it's going to be pretty exciting, to say the least.
So, obviously, with COVID, schools have protocols now, and I know some of these places also, we're not at an NUIC school. Anything special to note for the COVID protocol?
Basically, a lot of things are going to be at the school's discretion or decisions. The only thing that I've seen so far is that ticket sales are going to be done through each of the players. They're going to be given a certain amount of tickets due to the 20% capacity rule, and obviously it's going to affect how many people are going to be able to attend the games. I think most of the capacities are going to be within that 500, 600 person range. So with that, if you want tickets, obviously you're going to have to go through a player that has ticket availability.
And I'm sure if you don't find a player, I'm sure you can contact your school and find out any avenue there.
Yes, correct. I mean, that's pretty much the area I've been trying to tell people all spring. Contact your schools. We don't have these answers. We've been trying to contact schools to get some information for you as well, but we can't supply it all, obviously. So yeah, get a hold of your schools. They'll be able to help you and guide you on what their avenues are.
Fortunately, an avenue we have answers on is how can I stream my game?
Yes, so obviously the majority of the schools are going to be streamed on the NFHS network. One of the schools is going to have theirs on YouTube, which I think was Amboy, and then there's two other schools that were on a different network. But if you go to NFHS, you can get your subscription in there. It's relatively cheap for the entire season. So you get to be able to watch all the games that you want at any time that you want. So if you see a game and you want to see another game, you can watch multiple games in the same weekend. So that's pretty cool.
And obviously we always have the good old radio, which I know every week you put out who's going to be on what station.
Yeah, and obviously radio broadcasts will still be available through our normal
AM, FM radio.
through our normal radio channel, so it'll be exciting to see what they can do. Obviously, media has been allowed to attend games. Again, that's also up to each school's discretion on who and how many are allowed to come.
Well, regardless, I'm happy to have the Illinois high school football back.
Yes, it's great to be back. Obviously, it's going to be a quick and fast, short 6 weeks, but it's going to be a great precursor to what we see this fall. And, of course, get these seniors the last opportunity to put the pads on, get on the field, and go out there and represent their schools the way that they should. So get up to the games. If you can't get to the games, get on NFHS and get your subscription. As always, root for the NUIC.